and welcome back to my channel. We're going to be working on this wood clock that I found at a thrift store. But first, are you ready to find the 5 coffee cups throughout this video for your chance to win a fabulous DIY class on the ReThink Fabulous Facebook page? If so, here's what you need to do. Find the 5 coffee cups throughout this video. Remember where you saw them and email your answers to Natalie at rethinkfabulous.com. Good luck! So I found this wooden clock at a thrift store for $5. And we're just going to start out by wiping it down with some rubbing alcohol. This just removes all the dirt and grime that's left behind. Doing this really helps the paint adhere to your project better. I'm going to be using Apple Barrel White Flat Acrylic Paint for this project, and I'll also be using some painter's tape that I got from the Dollar Tree. I'm just going to tape off all the metal parts of the clock, that way it's protected while I'm painting. Make sure to press down on the tape so no paint will seep through. Here I'm just taking my white paint and painting all the wood on my clock.
You have my heart, you have my soul, you have my whole, you have my control. Love me tender, love me sweet.
And now I'll just go in and start taping off the rest of the metal on the face of the clock. Now that I've got my first coat of paint on, I'm going to take my hair dryer and just start drying the paint to speed up the drying process. Here I went in with my sanding block and was going to sand that first coat of paint, but then I changed my mind and decided I would just paint the whole clock with the second layer, and then I would go back in and continue with my distressing technique. And then drying that second layer so that it's thoroughly dry. I'm just painting the back of the clock and finishing all the touch-up places and my third layer of paint.
You have my heart, you have my soul, you have my whole, you have my control. Love me tender.
I'll dry that third layer of paint, and then I'm going to go in and do something called wet distressing. Wet distressing is where you take a wet rag, in this case I'm just using a wet wipe, and you're going to go across the paint lightly. Some areas you can push harder and it'll take more paint off, but you're just going to continue to rub your paint where you want it to be distressed, and it starts to take the paint off. I find that when I use this wet distress technique, it really seems to flatten out that paint because it's not fully cured and makes a nice soft finish. So you don't have to go back in with a sanding block and sand it. Here I'm just paying close attention to all the edges and sides of the clock, making sure they're nicely distressed. And this is how it's looking so far.
I can't forget the day we met. You look so fly in your red Corvette. Your hair, your look, your everything. When I see it all, I knew that you were mine. I'm in love with your hair, your lips, your silhouette in the moonlight shine. With my love, you won't ever be alone, my summer love. Been waiting for you, my love. Completely a fool. Been waiting for you, my love. Head over heels, I'm blinded by.
Now I'm going to make sure I pay close attention to all the edges and those corners where they would really naturally be worn by regular wear and tear. Here you can see how the paint is starting to smooth out nicely as I've been rubbing it with the wet cloth.
Love me tender, love me sweet. With you I know that I'm complete. I'm in love with the summer's day. For you I'd give my life away. Never leave me, never let me go. My summer love, be waiting for you, my love. My summer love, be waiting for you, my love.
I'm really loving how this is turning out and all the distress marks on it.
My love is forever yours.
Now that I'm done distressing my clock, I'll just go in with my hair dryer and make sure it's nice and dry. I thought I would try using a black paint marker so that maybe I could do a better job on my edges. You can get these paint markers at Walmart or any craft store.
In a magic way. Whenever I see you, all I can think is my summer love. Been waiting for you, my love. My summer.
So I went around the edges with my paint marker and I wasn't really liking it, so I decided to go in with my Waverly chalk paint and the color ink. Now I got this at Walmart, but you can also pick it up on Amazon as well.
I'm in love with your hair, your lips, your silhouette in the moonlight shine. With my love.
So I just went in with a nice thin tipped paintbrush and painted all the metal black with the Waverly chalk paint.
Been waiting for you, my love. Head over heels, I'm blinded by what I feel. My love is forever yours.
And then I just hit that with the hair dryer to make sure it was nice and dry.
You have my heart, you have my
Now, as you can see here, I did get paint on the glass of the clock, but it's not a big deal because you can just wipe that right off of the glass as soon as you're done painting.
summer's day. For you I'd give my life away. Never leave me, never let me go. My summer love, be waiting for you, my love. My summer love, be waiting for you, my love. My love is forever yours. Forever yours. My love is forever yours.
As soon as I got this all painted, I went in and cleaned all the black off the glass, and then I just took some white paint and touched up around the edges of the wood where I got a little bit of the black paint. Now I'm going to go in and wet distress where I painted black just to let some of that metal kind of come through. I just think it gives it a nice aged look as well.
In a magic way. Whenever I see you, all I can think is my summer love. Been waiting for you, my love. My summer love. Been waiting for you, my love. I can't forget the day we met. You look so fly in your red Corvette. Your hair, your look, your everything. When I see it all, I knew that you were mine. I'm in love with you.
And I'm very happy with how it turned out. And here are some pictures of the finished project.
My summer love. Been waiting for you, my love.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any fabulous DIYs.